Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on another edition of Question by Mark. I've got Laurence Fox with me today. Now, I'm sure everybody knows who Laurence Fox is. So, right-wing commentator and activist, leader of the Reclaim Party, and I'm very honoured to have him on Question by Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Laurence, how are you doing?
I'm all right, man. Just messing with the volume. I'm in the middle of a sort of tropical thunderstorm, rainstorm here, so I'm just trying to make sure I can hear you.
Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining me, Laurence. It's very much appreciated taking some time out of your holes to speak to me. So what we'll do, we'll just get straight in it. I know we're a bit pushed for time. I've got a few questions of my own and then a few questions from followers that have asked me to put things to you. So what are your thoughts, Laurence, on the current state of UK politics, particularly in terms of policy and leadership?
Interesting. I was in America for the inauguration, and I was listening to Trump talk about talk to the people that vote for him and support him, and he was very much based on service. It was all about, he was their representative, he spoke up for them, and it was very much a sort of family's atmosphere, if you will. So, and I thought, he's a very outspoken guy, and he was wonderful. And I look at the UK politics, and I don't see anybody in any party that does the same, really. So obviously the Conservatives are sort of the kind of possible excuse is Kemi Badenoch is finding her feet as she is out against her leadership and the direction she wants to set her party on. Starmer is like, it's a complete disaster, isn't it? I mean, those lot are, I have no word other than student union communist idiots. They are ridiculous. I think the way they've handled every single thing that they've had to face at the moment lacks leadership entirely. I think Starmer is a very weak man. He lacks principles. I think he covers things up. I think this Rudolph Barno guilty plea, sudden change to a guilty plea, is covering something much deeper and darker. I want to know why. I want to know why all this ricin was found in Rudy Barno's house, and I want to know why a man with a term manual is a terrorist, or Keir Starmer calls him a new lone wolf terrorist, and we've had millions of lone wolf terrorists. It's absolute rubbish. And I look at reform, and I think it's fairly obvious what I think about reform. I think they are just another arm to the Uniparty. I am, a huge admiration for Nigel for the way he dealt with Brexit, and he's really suffered a lot for this country, and so I have huge respect and admiration for him for that. But I don't think he's equipped to deal with the cultural issue that we face, and I think that he's throwing under the bus a huge proportion of British people, and he seems to have this strange obsession with Tommy Robinson, which I just can't get over. It's like, mate, you don't have to talk about him. You can just turn around and say, so disagree with Tommy Robinson. I respect and support his right to free speech, and he won't do that. And it's starting to smell a bit of the green-eyed monster to me. So I think dire would be the short answer to your question.
Yeah, I've just been talking to Charlie Mullins actually, and we were talking about Tommy Robinson and the way Nigel Farage is speaking every time. The problem is that every time mainstream media manage to get time with Nigel Farage, they are going to ask him about Tommy Robinson every single time, and every single time he bites. And this is what they want. They want the right divided because they know that the right are coming strong. So yeah, I'm the same thing. If you've not got anything nice to say, don't say it all, or just say next question. But he seems to have like you say, fascination with throwing him under the bus, and the problem there being is that a lot of Tommy Robinson supporters are also Reform supporters as well. So and the mainstream media love this. I did a podcast last night around broken Britain. Are we broken? So I'm going to ask that same question that I asked the panel last night. And what do you think are the most significant signs that Britain might be considered to be broken at the moment?
I think we're struggling with the sense of what our national identity is, and we are struggling to identify what are the problems that Britain faces. Obviously you've got the financial problems, the sort of nasty, bitter and twisted attack on the middle class, which socialism is famous for. to try and, take aspirational, hardworking people and who can barely afford private school fees, for example, and screw them for that. I think that's just bitter and twisted. We've got millionaires leaving Britain every 45 minutes. You get a millionaire leaves Britain. Millionaires are responsible for paying, I think it's something huge. I can't remember exactly what percentage of the tax burden it is, but it's a huge percentage of the tax burden. We've got a bloated state, and yeah, we are broken. I think we're pretty close now to having more undocumented illegal immigrants in this country than we do in the British Army, which should probably terrify everybody. And we don't have no one will call out, one of the major problems. And I do kind of bang on about this, and people think that it's extreme, but it's not extreme because I've studied it, as Tommy has. Not that this is about Tommy, but it's like you've got to take a real look at Islam and what it wants to achieve globally, not just in Britain. And to have no political party in the UK even beginning to have the discussion, as we've had another man, a critic of Islam, shot dead on the street today in Sweden,
Yeah.
is a sign of a society which I don't think is broken. I just think we lack confidence. I was watching a Labour shadow cabinet member from the mid-70s, when Edward Heath was prime minister, talking about why he didn't want us to join the European Union, and you would have thought that was a far right extremist. Now that's a Labour shadow cabinet member. So we're a blob. Britain is a blob of unprincipled, cowardly people who won't stand up and call out what the problems are. But the good news is that Labour is in so much trouble that I'm not sure. Well, you never know. I'm not sure they're going to see another term in government. Their support didn't actually increase in the last general election. It was just that the Conservative support went to reform. So we've got three parties, one of which is going to take, roughly 25, 26% of the vote, and two of which will take something similar. So yeah, I don't think it looks good, is what I would say.
No, and the problem we've got is Labour Party are importing most of their voters. Well, not importing, they're allowing them into the country. And they've got that ethnic minority vote, same as Sadiq Khan in London. It's going to be very difficult to remove him from his position because he's got the backing of the ethnic minorities. So I think we've got one opportunity to get Labour out, and one opportunity only, because I think it will only, their vote count will only get more as we go on. You launched the Reclaim Party in 2020. What inspired you to do that?
Well, to provide a sort of an alternative, that idea that we need to return to sort of common sense stuff that just makes sense to normal people. And it wasn't really at the end of the day, it's not, it was launched to do what Reform are now doing, because Farage has decided to return to the fray, and therefore one has to sort of put it on the shelf and wait until whatever happens with Reform, I suppose. So, there's no point in fighting your friends. I don't believe in that sort of thing. So it sits there as you'd be very hard pressed, I imagine, to get a political party with that sort of idea across the line in past the Electoral Commission these days. So it awaits its time to be used for the people of Britain, a party of the people, by the people, and for the people, I suppose, is what it's for.
Okay, you said you would fight against extreme political correctness. Can you explain what you meant by that, and do you still think it's an issue today?
Extreme political correctness is something politically correct would be the trans issue, wouldn't it? You've got to let people be trans, be kind, let them be kind. But, the extreme version of that is children having their bodies mutilated, and, all this is now stopping, and that child mutilation cult is coming to an end. But, yeah, it was in all aspects of me, because obviously my background was in acting. And I was noticing over and over again that the quality of the scripts were getting worse, and the emphasis on whatever this word diversity means, not diversity of quality, by the way. There was just a huge emphasis on that, which one cannot change about oneself. So I would say it's extremely politically correct. to hold views which are based around immutable characteristics that you can't change. And and anti-meritocratic views, hiring people based solely on skin color or ethnicity or gender. And we need to. That's not working, as we've seen probably with this crash between the American Airlines flight and the military helicopter in DC today as well.
Yeah, I think people say that we can't just do certain things. You can't just deport immigrants. You can't just do this. You can't just do that. But Trump's proving otherwise, isn't he? I've been fascinated with his first week in office and what he's actually doing. You can actually see illegal immigrants being marched to planes to be deported. He's talking the talk instead of just speaking it. Is that possible over here? I don't think it is under Labour, but do you think we could take some lessons from what Trump's doing in America?
Well, it was possible when they decided they wanted to imprison the people of Southport for protesting against the brutal, sadistic murder of their children. It was possible to suddenly pop up some kangaroo courts with some activist judges to lock them up. So it's possible to do it for one cause. Why is it not possible to do it for another? Why is it not possible to say we're going to stop the boats, we're going to stop them immediately, and we're going to declare a national emergency, as Trump did in America, and just stop it? But there's no political will for it, you see. That's the problem. And for some reason, Britain is very unwilling. Even the so-called radicals, who I actually think are just other parts of the Uni Party, will not call for the mass deportation of criminals. I think Farage has actually done a volte-face and said that he will now call for the mass deportation of criminals because he's seen how popular it is in America. I mean, we're talking about an issue here which is popular with almost 80% of Democrat voters in the US. So this is 20% of the population are ruling over 80% of the population with an iron fist. So we're not going to see it here because Farage is playing it very safe because he's got his hands on his eyes on the golden goose of the Premiership of the United Kingdom, and it seems that he will get there at whatever cost. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't care. He wants to have his final farewell, and it doesn't really seem to care whether it affects the country and the people within it or not.
Yeah, I kind of agree with regards to the kangaroo courts. I was one of those that was put through courts for posts on X, and it was really quick. I got arrested and I was put in prison really quickly. I got arrested on Wednesday morning, and by Thursday I was in HMP Leicester. I managed to get bail 3 weeks later, and then my court case was only 2 months after that. So, like you say, it can be done if they want to, And we need to take a long, hard look at our justice system, because I do think we're now in a two-tier policing, and we are a police state. Your thoughts on that, if you don't mind, Laurence, about this two-tier policing? Do you believe that it is a thing, and just how bad is it over here?
Well, absolutely, we live in it. It's not so much a two-tiered policing; it's two-tier society. Keir Starmer spent 19 seconds between leaving the car and walking up to drop off his bouquet before he went off to, first of all, stop at the mosque and say to everyone, don't worry, we're going to give you a few tens of millions of investment to make sure that you're safe. Not that our little butchered British girls are safe, but that you feel safe, which is appeasement, and I loathe appeasement. And it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And this whole idea of locking up, what did Peter Lynch do? Rest in peace. What did he do? And what did a vast majority of these people like yourself do? And I find it horrifying because anyone who understands that society is based on order and trust, and policing is done by consent, has to have a belief, a solid and well-founded belief and faith in the fact that the police will police by consent. And I don't notice policing by consent at all. I myself I think I've got either 2 or 3 still ongoing cases with the police. I say to my children, if they're ever in trouble, never to go near a policeman. I say don't go near them. They're dangerous. The faith in society for the police is at an all-time low. And we've seen it. We've seen what happened with Alison Pearson, and the non-crime hate incidents is Orwellian. It's appalling. and it's dreadful. And anyone who actually wants to speak up, like the people of Southport, who I've spent time in Southport. We're in the process of making a documentary about Samina Hallowell, Rachel Hallowell's daughter,
Yeah.
who took her a knife, and the police came around the night before she was going to give evidence about police, about Merseyside police. You know, these people are, to me, they are absolutely out of control and dangerous. And that's not to say that there aren't good police officers within the police force, but those that you know, pull the strings, and those in the higher managerial positions who have got there for holding the right on woke correct views, and the College of Policing, entirely unelected College of Policing, have destroyed faith in law enforcement in this country. And that should worry anybody, whether you're a Labour voter or a Lib Dem voter or a Conservative voter, or whatever your stripes. If the police aren't policing fairly without fear or favour, you should be very, very worried. And I am very, very worried.
Yeah, me too.
And being bit by mosquitoes.
I've had a few interactions with Samina's mother, Rachel, and she was gagged, wasn't she? She wasn't allowed to say anything at all. I know that you was involved with that as well. Anybody who doesn't know about that story, go and do some research on it, because it's a scandal and it's quite shocking what's happened to that family. So that's not for today, but yeah, please do go and have a look at that. I'd like to put some questions to you from my followers, if you don't mind, Laurence. The first question is from Katie Morgan. And Katie says, do you think that Trump and Musk will help us? If so, when do you think that is going to happen? That's part one. And she said, you are vocal about freedom of speech. How do you perceive the state of free speech in the UK today? So Musk and Trump, will they help us? And your views on free speech in the UK?
I think it's sort of incumbent on Trump and Musk, less so, but more on Trump. It's incumbent on him to kneel on Keir Starmer's balls. Sorry to be a bit crass about it. It's incumbent on him to punish Britain for being a socialist state, and therefore I hope he does, and I hope he makes Britain a very, very. I hope he damages Britain until either the people of Britain or the political class of Britain start saying some things which represent the people. But the 80% of us who don't want our borders to be invaded and our culture to be completely erased, diluted, and eradicated, and this occupation, this invasion to stop, which is what we want. 80% of us want that. So I hope he teaches us through the speaking softly and carrying a big stick, and I'm sure he will. I got that. All of the input that I got from the people I was spending time with in America was that he was going to make sure that Keir Starmer knew exactly how low down his list of priorities was. And Musk is, I've just been seeing what's been going on with Calvin Robinson today. I think Musk is, he's not particularly in our camp, if that's the right way of putting it.
Yeah.
But he understands the primacy of free speech, and that free speech, without free speech, you don't have democracy, because you can't. I mean, that one could argue quite easily that the whole problem with Rudy Kavanaugh and the whole problem with Rachel Hallowell and Samina Hallowell was people, and all of the disgusting, vile, satanic rape gangs that took place and are still taking place is down to the lack of freedom of speech in this country, because people are terrified that they'll be called Islamophobic or racist in some way for being upset that their girls are being either raped and brutally tortured or massacred, and so I think Musk has a big part to play when it comes to free speech. I'm not sure, his energy is going to be spent with the Department of Government Efficiency, isn't it? So he's going to be trying to shrink the state down, and we seem to be ever expanding ours.
Yeah,
that's what
I totally agree. You're quite outspoken with the things that you say, and everything you say is all valid. There's nothing that you say that isn't truthful. Are you contacted by the police at any point? Because once I won my trial, I've had 2 times now since then that the police have knocked on my door, and basically trying to scare me, trying to warn me that you've been in prison, you've done this, you've done that, you were lucky last time. Watch what you're doing, and both times I said, look, you need to bog off. Do you have that sort of thing happening to you as one of the most outspoken political commentators and etc. in the UK?
Certainly, I did when I was in London. It was the main reason I left London, other than the fact that London was unrecognisable as a British city on any level whatsoever. But yeah, I had huge amounts of the police took great pleasure in intimidating me. My problem is that I don't find them intimidating, and you use the words "bog off." I use slightly different language when the police come near me. The first question I ask the police is, "Do they have a warrant?" And if the answer is no, then they get treated to, the most flowery language I can think of at the time, which is really sad because, there will be good men and women in the police force, and there will be good men and women across the country who want to believe in the police force, but they are currently an activist wing of the political media industrial complex. That's what they are. They won't come and solve a burglary, but they're very happy to come and give you shit for a tweet. And it's like, absolutely, I'm really sorry. That's not what I pay you for. I pay taxes. I just paid my tax bill,
Yeah.
actually. And to think that any of it is going to go on a meal for Axel Rudy Cabana makes me absolutely furious, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it does me as well. I'll put a tweet out saying, look, people saying about the death penalty, which I believe he's quite worthy of. We're going to be housing him for 52 years if he lives that long, unless somebody gets to him first, and at cost of X amount per year. I don't think that's right. Another question from LAU TV2. In this time of tyranny, you should use your voice to promote unity behind one party that is most likely to succeed. More division is not helpful. Do you agree with that comment?
I understand it, and I also have great sympathy for it. But unless one begins at the fundamental first principles of what a political party needs to do, so it all boils down to free speech. The fact that 80% of us don't agree with what's being done. So the way that we can get that heard is by allowing free speech, and and that political party and that political movement on this side of the argument has to be against cancel culture. So if there is a political party out there which is pro free speech and against cancel culture, then I would very, very happily support it. At the moment, I think the only thing that one can do is try and maintain a bit of tension between the Conservatives and Reform in order to create a bidding war of ideas between the two, because people forget this. Reform members have no say. It's
No.
Nigel Farage's dictatorship. So if Nigel Farage got into power and we wanted, he started behaving like an absolute loon bag, not that he would, but there should be checks and balances and ways of making sure that Nigel Farage was then, if we wanted, to be replaced by someone like Suella Braverman. And I think that his grasp on power, this need of power for his, is really standing in the way of what can be a genuinely inclusive movement on our side of the argument. So, and I do have a lot of sympathy for those that talk about change at any cost and all of that sort of stuff. So, but at the same time, I go, well, the Weimar Republic was crap, wasn't it? It was a woke pile of rubbish. And what did that get replaced by? So I'm not going to throw my hat into the ring with Nigel Farage, a man who consciously goes out of his way to attack someone who was the person who exposed grooming rape gangs. He exposed them, and at a terrible personal cost. And I understand Nigel's been through a terrible personal cost. A lot of us have. But I cannot and will not support reform in its current form. I can't. I won't do it. Actually, in
No,
fact,
no.
I'm sort of anti them.
Yeah, I'm a member, but the more I listen to Nigel, and the more I hear him throwing Tommy under the bus and something, and his views on immigration, he was quite hardline, but since he's been an MP, that's all softened. So it's a bit difficult to read what to do. What's your thoughts on UKIP and Nick Tenconi?
I just don't think we need more political parties at the moment. I think we need to have a sort of a congress of the opposition to sit down and say what are the things that have been taken away from us. What is Trump doing? So he's diagnosed the problem and he's given you the solution. So he said, we've been invaded by a large number of illegal immigrants, and we have to get rid of those illegal immigrants. So I'm going to get rid of them on day one.
Yeah.
What's he doing over gender? There are a certain group of sadistic, psychopathic parents and Munchausen's parents and doctors who are mutilating their children and denying them any sexual congress in their future. Trump just goes, "We're banning it. It's finished. It's game over." And I'll get behind any political party that turns around and says we'll do that. I don't know enough about UKIP. I think the brand is a bit tainted in a way. I think something will emerge from this, by the way. I also have a very, very strong view that there's not actually a political solution to this problem. This has to be every single one of us, every single day, waking up and speaking freely. And if we do that, then we have an opportunity to reverse what's being done to us. And if we don't do that, then we're running out of time. And so, therefore, I don't think we need more political parties. I mean, I don't think you'd ever meet someone on the street who's heard of Nick Tenconi. Having said that, I don't think you'd meet that many people on the street who've heard of Ben Habib, who's a fine, brilliant political mind, who was rudely cast aside by Nigel Farage because he asked for a bit of democracy within the party. So if people want a dictator, go for it, vote for it. You have my support. You vote for whoever you want. It's just I'm an individual, and I will back who I want to back. And I don't think we're ready for a proper opposition yet. I think the British people are so wonderfully patient that they will wait and wait and wait until it's so bad that something has to be done. And if Farage is the answer to that, then so be it.
I think we're very close to being there. A question from Warwickshire Lad. A simple question. What do you think of Sadiq Khan?
I need it. Do you have a bleep thing that you can put over? What a monumental cunt that human being is. I mean, he is the most divisive, vile, heat-filled wanker liar that I've ever met in my life. And he does all this bullshit. He's chairman of the C40 cities, which is all about turning everyone who lives in the city into some sort of vegan bicyclist, which no one wants that. No one asked for that. And then his deception by saying that London is for everyone. Well, it isn't for everyone. It's not for British people. It's a diversity is our greatest strength city. And that's his favourite line, diversity is our greatest strength. And actually, if you break down what diversity is our greatest strength means, diversity is our greatest strength means that all cultures are equal. They're not, as we were proved by the caveman Muslim rape gangs. They're not all equal. And we need to be able to say that. As you say, the 1 in 12 in London now is an illegal immigrant. To me, that's an invasion and occupation of a capital city of Great Britain. And I think Sadiq Khan should be challenged, and I think I probably will challenge him. Actually, I think I'll probably go out and do what I normally do, which is kick the Overton window as hard as I possibly can over in one direction to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to live in a city where our women are dressed in bin bags, and we're not going to live in a city where women from Muslim countries are not educated, they're not encouraged to speak, they're not encouraged to learn the language. I'm sick to death of Sadiq Khan. And I also, in a very sort of conspiratorial, theorist way, I don't think that I've never met anyone in London who likes him. So wherever he's getting his vote from, it's well, actually, I know where he's getting his vote from because I met a taxi driver on my way to vote in the mayoral, and I said, "How did you vote?" And he said, "Oh, my son did it for me." So, we know how that one is working out. I think.
Sorry, go on.
No, I think it would cause him nothing but joy to see London and Britain more fully turned into an Islamic state, and I don't want to see that. And he does it all. These silly woke leftists who think that they're using Sadiq Khan, and Islam in their sort of tolerance of Islam to bring England along. They just don't get it. Islam is using them, and they'll be the first, to be dispensed with once they're no longer useful. And we're getting not miles away from that place, especially if you can bring 50 of your relatives over.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. I just feel like it's going to be very difficult to remove him from his position. I mean, in what country do you oversee the increase of knife crime and watch the capital city turn to shit? and get knighted for it. You know, it baffles me. I've got a question from Helen D. This will get you back up as well, because there's a name I'm going to mention here. Helen D says, what do you think about people like Narinder Kaur and Shola pushing white hate? Does it have the potential to lead to white kids getting hurt?
And what do I think of them? I just think, they're human beings. So I have to love them because, you do. But I think what they're doing, the love the sinner, hate the sin thing, I think what they're doing is vile. I think that the sort of the white saviors and the guilty white people who sit and go, well, we've got to give Dr. Shola a platform on ITV to slag off white people is stupid. It wouldn't work the other way around. You wouldn't ever platform a white person to sit there and go, how, why are all these black kids killing each other on the streets of London? It wouldn't happen because, we're too guilty. So I think that, Narinder Kaur is, she's a very low IQ person. So there's no point in being too hard on her. She's not smart. She's got no discernible, reasonable, logical brain. And Shola is just they're both just massive racists in my view. And I'm just like, why are you platforming racists? Why is anyone platforming racists? I don't understand. So let them be.
Agreement. I think they're vile. I've had a few interactions with her, and she's only there for the clicks. She knows what she's doing, even though she's got a low IQ. A question from Geordie Armani. They say, if it's a lady or a gent, they said they saw a comment that you missed your acting career. Do you regret your free speech fight and how it's all materialised?
I had this conversation with my son the other day, who said, it could have all been fine, and you could have all, you could have had your money and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, yeah, but money doesn't make you happy, really. It's obviously it makes being unhappy a lot easier, but it doesn't make money's not why we're on this planet. And for whatever reason, my view was, I needed to say something because other people weren't. So no is the short answer. And yeah, deep down I do, because I think, just on a purely economic level, I was trained at the best drama school in Britain, and I worked for 22 years as an actor, and I was pretty good at it. So it seems just like bad economics to kick me out of the way just because, I happen to share the views of most of the audience that are tuning into this or not tuning into this crap that they're being shoveled down. We've got a 19 nominated Academy Award film about some trans dude. And it's like, no one fucking cares, mate. Like we used to watch the Oscars. The Oscars viewing figures are down to laughable figures. Show business is sort of looked at and derided in a way which is utterly deserved. And I hope one day that I'll be, the plurality of views, which is what art is all about, comes to be acceptable again. But until that day, I will keep banging the drum on freedom of speech and the right to hold a view, which is what art should do. It should push up against culture. It should say, hey, culture, you're shit. But have you seen any anti-Labour films, any anti-Democrat films, any anti-woke films? They're very few and far between if they exist at all. Can I quickly nip and grab myself another glass of water? Give me one sec.
Yeah, no problem.
Cheers.
I think he's quite right when he talks about that. And the problem we've got in the UK is when you advocate for freedom of speech and then you get polarized for it or punished for it, that's the whole intention, is so that you don't continue doing that. So I, for one, am pleased that people like Laurence Fox are continuing to advocate for free speech, because if once we get a slap on the wrist or punished for it and we don't keep talking about free speech, then that's where it all dies. And this is what the left, mainstream media want to happen. That's the whole intention of it, is to polarize and to divide. So I'm just saying, Laurence, that
I was listening. Yeah, I can hear you.
you can hear.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's what I think is happening. So if everybody that gets a slap on the wrist or gets cancelled or etc., then just stops doing and advocating for it, then we're knackered, aren't we?
Yeah,
We are. And that's the plan, isn't it? And I understand that also free speech should have limits to it. I mean, I'm not quite a free speech absolutist. I don't believe that you should be able to call for the murder of somebody else. I think that should be illegal. And I think it's absolutely right that it is so. But we should adopt a position. We should start at free speech absolutism and then withdraw from there,
Yeah.
rather than starting at no free speech and trying to get it back. And you know, you see this all over all of these sort of fake free speech champions like GB News and others who sort of position themselves as people that care about free speech but don't care about free speech at all. And they would say, well, you know, free speech has consequences and all that, which it does, and I understand that. But there's also proportionality that needs to be built into this equation, and that seems to be sadly lacking in our country. And unless we do defend each other's right, the person I get on with best in my family is a lefty, and quite a woke lefty, and I get on best with them because we both respect the idea of each other's right to express themselves. So you know, if you can't start there, then where do you start? You can't start anywhere.
No, you're quite right. I mean, I announced that I'm interviewing certain people, and if I put anybody that's not right wing or centre right, you know, I get messages saying, "What the fuck are you doing interviewing them?" And I said, "It's about debate, and if we can't have grown up debate on certain topics and get both sides of the coin, then what are we? We're not a democracy, are we?" I'm quite mindful of time, Laurence. I know you need to get off soon. I've got a couple more questions for you. With regards to the COVID pandemic, you expressed skepticism over the vaccine, which you were more than rightly to do, and you spoke out about lockdowns. Now we've got bird flu on the horizon. How do you think this plays out? Is this round two of the bigwigs trying to peddle their vaccines and for their own agenda?
I think that any logical, fair-minded person would have said, you know, hang on, this is a brand new technology. We've got a bug which is disproportionately attacking the elderly, and it doesn't seem to affect the young. That was known pretty soon. And it was also very obvious from those that were silenced, like, you know, proper epidemiologists, Sinetra Gupta and various, who said that, you know, the rules of viruses is they tend to become much more transmissible and much less lethal through time. But we were told relentlessly throughout that 2020, 2021 period that, you know, this new strain, whatever it was, the Kent, remember the Kent strain? Fucking hell. You know, that it was going to be like worse. And all I did was adopt this, was what I thought was a fair-minded approach, which is like, I'm not sticking that shit in my arm. And I now personally know two people who have major heart problems as a result of it, and a whole slew of people who've got other problems as a result of it. So I'm just really glad I didn't stick that poison in my arm. And it, you know, I take no happiness or joy in being right about that. But you know, if you're going to rush through a very quick, innovative medical procedure and expect people to go along with it, which people did, you know, you're responding to government propaganda, to fear, this endless fear over everything. We're frightened of climate, frightened of COVID, frightened of this, frightened of that. I'm frightened enough just of getting up in the morning and living a life and trying to be a dad to my kids. And, you know, I've got more important things to worry about than the bug that kills 82-year-olds. You know, by all means, 82-year-olds, take as many vaccines as you like if you're frightened. But for those of us that didn't need it, and schools certainly didn't need to be closed as a result of this, and it destroyed our economy. 400 billion pounds was printed, and now just as the economy gets back off its arse, a lot of people are still paying off their COVID loans. You got Rachel from accounts coming in and fucking everyone over again, and you know, I'm a bit sick of it actually. I don't want to be controlled by people, and I think that there's a percentage of the population that doesn't want to be controlled by people. I don't want to be. I'm happy to, you know, abide by the law to, you know, the fullest extent of it if it makes sense, but I'm not going to sit there and have the government tell me what I can and can't ingest to see whether I'm going to survive longer if I try this stupid, novel, ridiculous, poisonous dart vaccine. Sorry, that's what I reckon it is, and it is
Yeah.
proved to be so. I've got
It
an
does.
immune system. You know, it
You're
wasn't.
quite right. You're quite right, Laurence, on it.
Mm.
Right. I know you're pushed. I've got one more question for you, and that is this. So, what do you foresee for the future of the UK political future, especially in terms of cultural and ideological shifts? bit broad, but
Well, there's that old saying that everything is impossible until it becomes inevitable, isn't it? And there is going to be, whether you like it or not, there's going to be a deal done between Reform and the Tories to try and wrestle back control of the country from these lunatics that are running it at the moment. I think there's going to be, I think once Tommy is released, I think he's going to have a lot to say. I'm going to go and see him actually. I think next week I'm going to see him, and to try and work out how these brave voices, how these people can be included in that movement, because it has to be an inclusive movement in the genuine sense of the word. When Sadiq Khan says inclusive, he means Shola and Narinder. When I say inclusive, I mean Shola, Narinder, and Tommy and everybody else. Like, include everybody and have a big national debate. I think the American effect is going to come over to England. The import of woke shit came from America, and has festered and rotted our universities and all our national institutions. And I think that this new regime in America will their cultural imports will also come and affect Britain, and I'm very excited about that. And I think that the future is actually quite positive. The only difficulty I see is that we are coping with a massive influx of Islamic immigration. We're not coping with an influx of people from Christian countries or elsewhere.
yeah,
Do you remember those good old days when the Poles came round?
yeah,
Where I live now, there's a lot of Polish people and Lithuanian, Latvian people, and they all have St. George's flags outside their houses. So, you can have immigration into a culture, but I think the Islam question is going to get more and more pertinent. And I think that Nigel, probably because he's got good timing, in about 2028, he will drop his Mohammedan chairman, and he will come out fighting for Christian values, which I think he's going to have to do, because we are a Christian country. All our laws are based on Christian values. They're not based on you can't marry a 9-year-old in the UK, can you?
no,
So we'll see. I'm hopeful that things will start. Those of us who've been silenced, cancelled, and destroyed will start to feel that our constituency and those that we believe in and who believe in us. And at the end of the day, I'm only in this game for the people that no one speaks for. I'm not in it for. If I was in it for personal gain, I would just made a really stupid choice, because I was getting a lot better off before I said anything. So my hope is that Nigel and/or others decide to democratize their party so that everyone is allowed a say, including the members. And I understand that I understand why Nigel is doing what he's doing, because UKIP turned into a madhouse when he was there. And he does need to maintain a sort of, core center of control, but it's got a bit much at this juncture. So I'm hopeful that I'll be pretty right again, like I was on Question Time. And that's, I don't say that with any like boohoo, well done, Loz. I say it in terms of going, I'm not wrong on this stuff. I do understand it. I think about it a lot, and I want to help.
Yeah, I align with you on most things, Laurence. I'll let you get on with your holiday. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we can soon sometime, mate.
Absolutely. And thank God for you, and thank God for others that are doing what you're doing. The most important thing is that it are the voices of the people. They need to be heard by the people. And I'm thrilled to have been with you, Mark. So thank you.
Cheers, Laurence. Thanks a lot. Cheers, mate. So there we go. Really enjoyed that chat. Hopefully I'll get to talk to him again soon at some point. So from me, thank you for joining on Question by Mark again, and wait till the next one.